Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Fianna. I work at SideFX, and during the course of the Houdini 20.5 dev cycle, I got the opportunity to use several of the new features, which I found to work nicely together. So I'm going to be showing how to make a pillow, but of course, that's not really the point. It's just to show that you can use the combination of tools together to get iterate on assets, push ideas out and just try them without the cost of committing to the full and final thing at the end. So what are we going to be looking at today? So we'll be looking at Planar Inflate, the sculpt SOP, Wrinkle Deformer, some cops, but we're all waiting for Nicholas' juicy cops presentation later at the end of the day. But I'll touch a little bit on that, and then I'll go over the quad remesh, which is still in beta, but beta 2 because we released the first version in Houdini 20, and then also the quick surface material with cops in conjunction with cops, and a little bit of the Karma physical sky. So here is the Planar Inflate, the general options that you have on hand, and the function of this tool is, this node is to just inflate your geometry. It's very obvious, but there are the settings within. So you can see that depending on your geometry, you always need to put in 2D plane, some kind of 2D geometry for the inflate node to work. And notice that we had subdivisions before in the geometry. So you can decide on which direction you want to push the inflation on. You can choose to inflate individual faces or one full thing. You can mirror it because you can output the back, and you can control the resolution of it by the target length. And then we look at the sculpt tool. So I don't remember actually which version it was, but we had a YouTube rollout of one of the releases, and somebody on the YouTube premiere was asking, why can't we have sculpting in Houdini? And I was responding that, there's dedicated applications for sculpting like ZBrush with, extensive development history, a lot of options and controls and brushes that you can use. So it's very professional sculpting software. This is not ZBrush, but it gives you the option to do your adjustments of your mesh within Houdini with relative ease. And so I can eat those words that I wrote on the comment. So here you can see in the brushes, there's options within different brush settings. There's different strokes like dots or spraying, there's radius and all this stuff, and you're thinking do I really need to know all these things to do my sculpting? So no, you don't. The cool thing about the sculpt node is that you have all of these options, almost all of these options actually, in one place, with the exception of lazy mouse. So we're going to take a look at that shortly. I know I promised pillow talk, but here's a nut instead. But really, if we were to just look at the pillow, the brushes that I used for the pillow, it was very basic. It was just the grab tool, the crease, and smoothing, which doesn't really give you an impression of what the sculpt node gives you. So here I prepared an example that you can better see the options. And so if you just hit the C key, all of this radial menu options will be there. There's sub menus. There's drag, deformation. They're all deformation brushes basically. But you can access them very easily. There's, I can't read that because it's too small. But there's all of these pinch, relax. There's the regular crease, flatten, clay, and everything is right under your cursor. So you can see that I have the viewport maximized fully. I can just focus on my geometry. make the shapes that I have in my head and not get like bothered by UI stuff. Except for the lazy mouse, which I requested the developer if he can like include it somehow into this like easily accessible radio menu. So maybe in the future it will be there, but for now, with the lazy mouse, say for example, I wanted to do the inset of this nut because I'm lazy and I don't want to model it properly. I just wanted to get the general shape. It's too small or too big, so I had to scale it down. And I want to increase the intensity and also get the lazy mouse. So that's the only thing I had to jump back to the menu for, or the pattern pane. And I decrease the distance and the speed so that I can have better precise control as I'm painting my like pattern. And so holding down the control, I get the inverse of the clay brush. So I'm just pushing the geometry in, which is much better improvement than the edit sub. And so that's the lazy mouse. Here's a few more brushes, such as flatten. So again, I don't have to model this. I can just have something like clean, sharp edges. And if I want to give it some character imperfections, I can just take the sculpt node and push the geometry to how I want. And then ultimately, you can get something like this and you just throw on a quad remesh and there's some clean usable geometry. So back to the pillow talk. After like the initial sculpting that I did to shape the like mirrored planes basically, which is what was the Planar Inflate doing, I did the sculpt and the Wrinkle Deformer, I just plugged it at the end. And what the Wrinkle Deformer will need is some kind of direction for Houdini to know like, oh, you want the creases, because if your arm is straight, well, okay, I have some folds here, but when you bend it, obviously you will get the deformation. So Houdini will always need some kind of input to know or guess like where you want those folds. And just now it went by pretty quickly, but if I go back to the panel, the menu here, mostly I was just using constraints, the settings in constraints and output to just relax the like folds and smooth things out, because I didn't need such aggressive shapes in the pillow. So these are all just settings that you have to like balance to find the appropriate result that you want for your needs. And so after I did the base shape, I modeled some extra details off of the base geometry. I prepared some UVs and I added some trim detail and a little cloth tag using the cup nodes. And then I used the main cloth texture courtesy of Grayscale Gorilla because they gave us access to their content. And well, I'm not going to say no to like nice textures because I'm lazy and there was a nice texture there. So thanks, Grayscale Gorilla. For the trim of the pillow, like the thing around the main geometry, I just used the tile pattern, and there's a myriad of shapes, which I'm sure will be covered later on, but I just used this rounded X and scaled it out, like scaled it super small, did some offsets. And here's the font node. I just did like a Planar Inflate tag. And here's a close-up of the texture from Grayscale Gorilla. And then the little threading here. There's no mouse, so the little like threading detail, those little X's were just kind of scattered along. So at a distance, it's enough to just like not look so plain. And so here's the pillow in the Vulkan viewport. And we are just going to switch to Karma XPU just to get a better look at the final result. So that is the pillow. We're actually going to look at non-pillow things. So if anyone's not interested, you can leave now. But there's some stuff in Quad Remesh. In this use case that I used it for, it was for scanned statues from 3D Scan website. And I guess the main things that I want to point out is, so in the Houdini 20, we had the option to do the quad remesh, so you get quadrangulated mesh, but there wasn't a way to drive really purposefully the output of it. And we're still not there yet, but because we're still in beta, but now we have the option to get like improved output based on these guide curves. So mostly this area, the alignment, so you have to, you have to click on the alignment tab, and then underneath, where's the guide? Down below, probably the people in the back don't see, but there's the option to put the to put your attribute and tell Houdini, yeah, this is what I want to drive the general topological flow of my mesh. The one thing that the developer, Justin, who's working on the quad remesh, he told me that as a tip, and I did both actually, so I tried it with and without. Honestly, I can't remember like the speed bumps or like general improvements if I had to like fine-tooth comb compare. But I guess generally if the developer tells you something that he knows like there's some math going on in the back, you should consider doing that. So he suggested that you always throw on a remesh because the quad remesh doesn't like this type of geometry. And that's what I got from the 3D scan. So if you want to have peace of mind, basically, just throw on a remesh and you're good to go. And then you're going to generate some guide curves. So you just use the group node, any input geometry, you just create this like batch of nodes, and then you can run other geometries through it afterwards. But you grab the general like details of your mesh, and this is all kind of like imaginary right now because you guys didn't look at the geometry. I should have put it first, but just bear with me. We can like jump back to it afterwards. But in the group node, you just enable the include by edges, and you dial the min edge angle by the amount that you want, and Houdini will group all of these edges, and we do a conversion from those edges to curves. Then we do a resample just to clean it up a bit and put on orient along curve, and you change the y-axis to up and tangent to direction. And then attribute transfer, you are assigning to the point's direction attribute, and attribute promote, you're converting that direction of the points to primitives because quad remesh will only just take the primitive input. So then you're plugging in the remeshed of what we looked at earlier, that guy. And so this is actually the original mesh from 3D scan. And you can see it's fairly dense, and trying to do something meaningful with it can be challenging. So here is that group, and those orange lines are the details that we want to capture. Then we are converting those to curves, and then we are plugging it into the align guide, and there's the direction. And it's not, so I have a side-by-side. And even then it's hard to see, but if you like take your time, you can notice that some areas are like more problematic than on the other side. This is without guide curves, and on the right is with guide curves. Here are some close-ups, and again, it's not perfect geometry. We're still working on improving it, but it's better than the previous. So something is better than nothing. And then I have a few more examples, like if you see around the eyes and the arm, also eyes and teeth. And then, so as I mentioned, you just have that initial setup of the nodes, and you just load in the next geometry to, cut UVs for, which again, you'll prepare for probably the first one. Then you just do some shading on it and experiment to get the look that you want. And then you just push out a bunch of assets and you're good to go. And there's lots of good quality, free to use assets online. So the next tool that I got to use during the dev cycle was the quick surface material. And this is kind of nothing to get excited about generally, because, okay, yes, we should have had this in the first place. Everything should be easily accessible to tweak your shader settings and assign your texture maps all in one place without doing a string of nodes. So everything has been packaged into one quick surface material. So your base color, specular, everything is there. And so if you grab a geometry, a free download from Sketchfab in this example, you get your base geo that you load in object context. And and then you bring it into LOPs, where we will apply the textures and, hooray, geometry. But now we're going to put down, I'm showing that I imported it from object context through the SOP import. And then we create a quick surface material. And then we are going to assign the main body color map that came with the file. And so we are looking for the texture and we assign it and nothing happens. Why? So actually with the quick surface material, you have to create a material linker. There were some discussions inside that we should put them together, but for the purpose of this, you just need to know in the meantime, you need a material linker to assign all of your shaders to the geometry groups, because this model came with group primitives. And so basically we're creating the first of the textures, the main body in this example, and then we're going to drag and drop. Oh, I'm moving way too fast, but we are basically doing that for each of the groups. So everything's been assigned to their respective groups, and all of that is in one place for this Fiat Punto asset. And then we just throw on a dome light to see what that looks like. And yes, it looks exactly as it does on the Sketchfab, which is great. And you're thinking why I should care? So the small but cool handy thing about the quick surface material is the option to modify existing textures that came. So in this example, the free one that I downloaded, if I go back to the color map, over on the right is a small button which is going to create a copnet. So it will suck your texture in that. In this case, I had something assigned already, so it created some default one, which is this checker pattern, just to say we are live. And so we go inside and we can just verify, yes, it's live. That is in the composite view. We can just change it to see, yes, it updates. So we can choose any colors that we want. And when we go back up level, we're going to pin it because that's annoying to jump back and forth. But now whatever changes we make in that copnet, which is conveniently right beside the quick surface material that we created. So if you do that to all of the textures, you can just modify them as you go. And nothing is cooked, hardened. So you're free to explore and experiment and try all the hideous color combinations of this checker. Or you can change the color of the original textures that came and modify it for your own if the free asset allows you to do so. So in this case, it does. And we are changing it to something even more sad. And we can just like experiment like without going to another application, like painting things. We can just do that all within Houdini in the one file. And it's very convenient for iterating, for example. So let's say if I wanted to give this car even more character, like the rusted colors, I can do so with the edge detect by contour, and it will grab the information from the texture, original texture, and just like give us this edges, and we can like boost it up a lot or have very little, and we just apply some color on it and then multiply them together, and we get this kind of like car that has seen things. Yeah, here I'm changing back the amount of rust, and that's good enough. So I'm gonna go back out and see what that looks like in the viewport. And so there's my rust bucket, Fiat Punto. And yeah, and I even like darkened the rims to just finish it off because it was too new. And that's you can see the other two things that I tweaked was the tires and the rims, but that's basically the very convenient option in the quick surface material. So yeah, thanks again to Sketchfab like for distributing quality free stuff. There's also like Polyhaven and other free online resources to grab geometry that you can, experiment and iterate and try out ideas. And then lastly is the Karma Physical Sky. So this is just the very short shout out, like call out to the atmospheric option. So previously we only had the dome light for the mode. And really the main settings that you will care about, obviously, is in the atmosphere tab. And there's a bunch of like scientific mathy things in there that the developer was trying to explain me, and really all I did was just like tweak sliders until I got the look that I wanted. And this is the Martian landscape that was created by Nicola for the Dawning short film, and I just threw in the physical sky, the Karma Physical Sky with the atmospherics to give this kind of like haze to the environment. And I didn't need a fog box, but you can use a fog box in conjunction with it. The developer mentioned that it's more optimized to do so without a fog box. So maybe try it without fog box first, and then depending on how much you need and what you can get from the result, just adjust accordingly. And that's it. Thank you. So hopefully I don't have to take any questions and I can just get off the stage. No questions, cool. What? Damn it.
Any questions?
Thank you, good people. Oh, damn. George, why?
Great presentation.
Oh, thanks.
Really excited to play with the just rendering things through using the new cops and sort of messing around with textures directly in there.
Yeah.
So what's the process for working in SOPs and having the ideal process of working in SOPs, applying a COPS sort of material to an object and then rendering that like nicely in the viewport without sort of sending it off for a real render?
So there was like, as the picture I showed early on, like almost. This one, we also got to experiment, and largely I would say because there wasn't documentation, it was like word of mouth from developers or other people that also use stuff along the way. We were able to sometimes reference from a CopNet in SOP. So you can generate your textures there and like link them to the COP material preview. Maybe PK can correct me if he knows the correct answer, but I did that. I did like live connections, but I also saved out textures as well and just like wrote them to disk and brought them in through LOPs. So you can do it all like both ways. You can do it both ways.
Thank you.
Hi. Nice presentation.
Oh,
Thank
thanks.
you. I don't want to torture you here.
Is this Erwin?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't want to.
But you're torturing me.
Okay, so basically a while back I was trying to send textures from Houdini to Unreal 5, and while there were some limitations, I'm actually interested to see in how the new Copnernicus system would go into generating textures. So is there any information already on how Copnernicus would work creating materials in Unreal, or is that not investigated yet?
I cannot answer that personally because I didn't get the chance to like explore that route. Maybe Nicola tried, I'm not sure. There were other people using cops, he's saying no. I can't give you an answer right now.
Because that car makes me think now we can dynamically create materials for Unreal if that pipeline gets worked through.
Yeah, I don't know, to be answered later. You can write us, you know, where to reach us.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Where? Here.
Thank you. Is it possible to project a texture on the geometry and transfer it with Copnernicus to the UV mode, to the UV texture?
I also can't say because I didn't. Yeah, I had like quite limited time, and this was the things that I got to explore in my rabbit hole. So
Thank you.
maybe like when after release and everything kind of settles down, we can explore more of these like different use cases or like different ways to interact between like textures, geometry, and then back to textures and rendering.
So much unexplored territory.
Yes, no time, not enough time. Too little.
The whole community. It's going to be awesome. Pioneering. Any other questions?
Yeah. Oh. We have a next presenter, guys. Damn it.
Hi, sorry to disturb you a bit.
I can't hear. It's all the metal.
Sorry to disturb you a bit. Just wanted to know the behavior of the COPS graph when saving your scene in USD afterward.
The behavior of cups?
Yes. What is the texture baked and reassigned when saving in USD, or is it just some node like the Materialix that are saved inside the USD?
Do you know this? Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Fianna.
Hi.
I'm just wondering, so with Copnernicus, is there anything for dealing with like UDIMs? You know, so if you've got like 20 UDIMs, could you deal with it like all as a bundle of AOVs or something like that?
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have like a actual answer about this. Like, I don't want to like bullshit you and just say like things that I can't verify. And because like, as I said, I had limited time during the dev cycle to like try things out. These were the only things that I can verify did work. Oh, there is one thing I want to say about the sculpt node that I forgot to mention. I know I'm totally not answering your question right now.
That's tough.
But I kind of already said I can't answer it. But important about the sculpt node is that it's like the edit stop. Like if you do manual edits, it will basically freeze, like at the time of creation, whatever state, like whatever geometry your thing is at. If you try to change anything like subdivisions, whatever, it's not going to update. So you will have to create like a next branch, like another sculpt node to continue. Maybe that's just the builds that I was working on, but like so far this is my experience. So if you're doing sculpting, it is cooked. That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions that Fianna can't answer?
Yes. Ask me them all.
Thanks, Fianna. Really good presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.